Hello, my name is MaybeSew, so maybe you should sew. Today I want to do something a little bit different. When I had originally planned this video, I was going to be just basically sitting down and talking, but I was like, I feel like that's boring, so I decided to do like a makeup look during this. I'm gonna give y'all my views on college, just like an FYI. Just to start with, everything I say in this is based on my own opinions, based on experiences I've had. Now, I live in the South. I am Black and queer, so other people's views might not be as stressful and there's more stuff that you have to look out for in my situation versus others. But anyways, before I start, I will go ahead and tell y'all what I'm thinking of for the makeup look. I think I'm gonna go with like a pink clown of sorts. I'll probably make this look a little bit more masculine since I do actually have like a little bit of a lining down here that I didn't want to shave. I'm trying to see if my hair will actually grow anymore than it is right now. Like there's some up here, but there's not very much. I'm gonna start with kind of like a contour of sorts with pink. And while I'm doing that, I will tell you about my degree that I got. I'm gonna do setting powder just to like not stain my face. My degree is in interdisciplinary studies. It is a pathway college degree where you can basically take their like mandatory classes and then the rest is up to you. You get basically a whole bunch of electives that you can do from any other like major that you might want to do, and I chose to do digital media and art and also film. Technically I think I still needed like 2 classes for film, but I'm counting it because I still did work to understand film and like study film in school. So if you want to get technical, I'm also going to put some of this on my eyes because my face is like combination. Some places are super oily and some are dry. I guess I'll start with the biggest question. In my opinion, is college worth it? Yes, but I will add an asterisk of depending upon what you're going to be doing. I feel like a lot of jobs don't necessarily require you to go to school. Like, for example, in my opinion, I think for acting, technically, you don't have to go to college, but it could definitely help you with coming out of your shell if you get nervous like me, meeting people that also want to be actors, and just like overall learning how to act with people versus just like trying to figure it out on your own. I've got a list here. I'm gonna look at it. I have basically like broken it up into if you're gonna go to college and if you're not. I'm gonna start with if you go to college. For my first section, I would say definitely get into campus events. Getting in with like a lot of, or not even a lot, just some campus events can really like help you see who's out there. A lot of the time you end up making friends that aren't in your major, so it's also just nice to have someone else that may be in another field that is also like tired, because you're doing a lot in college, and I had pretty much part-time jobs all the way through my 4 years. Another reason I say to do this is because it can help you like find more resources. When I was in college, I had a lot of trouble financially just because if the school didn't pay for it, my parents didn't pay for it, which that stopped I think after my second year. I would have to pay out of pocket, and I was in a brand new town that was like 4 hours from where my parents lived, so there was no going back home to watch laundry and stuff like that. So if I needed to pay for something, I just had to like find the nearest job. And also I didn't have a car, so that made problems happen. There are a lot of like campus resources that can help with financials and can definitely prevent like negative things from happening. Like, I believe at least 4 times during the 4 years, I almost had to drop out because I just simply could not afford a bill because for some reason or another, one of my scholarships just wouldn't cover everything, or I ran out of benefits. You only have a certain amount, and before college, I did dual enrollment, so they paid for that too. Just is a thing to think about. Now, if you do decide to go to events on campus, the one thing I definitely recommend is never feel like you can't leave. What I mean by that is sometimes you go to an event that, the flyer seems fun and stuff like that, but when you get there, it's not actually fun. When this happens, don't think that you just have to be there. You are allowed to go home because these events, unless it's like part of a class or something, you are not required to be there. So if you don't like it, leave. I'm telling you this because I definitely had a lot of anxiety. I still do, and that was a very hard thing to do. I would go to events and end up not liking them, but still stay there because I was afraid to leave. But I think around, I want to say my second year, I stopped doing that because it became like a waste of time for me. I think I'm gonna do shapes for my around my eyes instead of the wing. I'll do a triangle and maybe a rectangle. Genuinely, I would say going to events can definitely help with not only like the obvious of finding friends and stuff, but also just like knowing what is on campus and like what you can do on campus. That may be fun, So he looks really funny on camera. Forgot how hard this would be to read without my glasses. Hold on. Another thing I would recommend is setting up a time that you get to relax. I know this is probably something you've heard before, like if you have a job or something, but I do mean it, like actually try and do this like every week at least, because it is really, really easy to get burnout. That's one reason. Also, many of the campus events are later in the day because they want people to show up. Like that's their job, to get community within the school. So why not, go whenever you're tired of doing homework? I feel like this is kind of general for every college, but colleges can be huge. Mine, in my opinion, was huge. It would take me like 30 minutes to get to each class. Maybe when you have time, walk around campus and don't be like me and not know where you're going and see if you can find a secondary route to whatever class you have. I mean, you may also end up finding something fun to do. Like a lot of college college towns have events or like stuff you can go to that are near the school for that reason, because they know there's going to be people that want things to do. So just a way to look at things. I guess I'll do the lighter pink for these shapes. I might add some blue in just to like give it some variation. Yeah, I'll do the rectangle in the lighter pink and then blue. Wait, did I say that right? No, the triangle in the lighter pink and then I'll do the rectangle in blue. Another thing I would say if you're gonna go to college is to like always be safe, be aware of your surroundings, always. And I say this because I feel like a lot of people assume just because a campus has their own security, maybe even a whole office right by them, that it's just automatically safe. That is definitely not the case. I remember at my college, there was one time a escapee from a prison was on campus, and we all just basically had to stay in class until they found him. So things happen. Like bad people are everywhere regardless of how safe the place is. So just in general, be safe. Now, I didn't do very good things whenever I was in college. I tend to get really close to people whenever I connect with them. And I mean, I feel like that's everybody, but what I'm saying is they would, invite me to events off campus, and they had a car, and I didn't, so they would offer to drive me. And most of the time, I knew when to not get in the car with somebody, but sometimes I feel like maybe I should have been a little bit more safer than I was. So, don't be like me and just get into any car with anyone. That's not safe at all. And any number of things could have happened. So, just be aware of your surroundings, and maybe have a backup, especially if you don't know them very well. Let's say you get like in an argument and they decide to just like leave you there. Make sure you have a backup to get home, or can at least afford, like a Lyft ride home or something like that. You don't want to be in a situation where you end up having to walk hours home because that somebody left you. You know what I mean? I'm a performer. Before I was a performer, I still really love going to bars and just like hanging out with people. I knew everybody there before I was even in the industry, so I really enjoyed going to bars. And one time my car wasn't working, and one of my friends had asked me to come out with them, and they would drive. Can't remember what it was, but let's just say they ended up needing to just go home. And I don't think we were there for very long. We were probably there for maybe an hour, and I wanted to stay, so I had to make sure that I had enough money to get back home. So, just like be prepared. I'm going a little bit faster with my script than I thought I was. I promise I will finish this. I'm just gonna say that so this isn't long. Now let's talk about if you choose to not go to college. One thing I definitely recommend is that you still take like some kind of certification. Now, one reason I would say that is because usually certifications aren't as long as like a bachelor's would be, because usually a bachelor's is about 4 years. But it's just something to think about. And also, usually from what I've seen anyways, a lot of them don't require you to have some kind of prerequisite for it, so you can just take the class without really knowing anything about it. For example, I'm thinking about doing a certification in game art to do kind of like backgrounds and stuff like that. Technically, even though I have a background in those already, I didn't need it to be able to take the courses. Another reason is most of them are self-paced, meaning that you aren't really like strictly required to complete something by a certain period. If you need help from the professor, because I believe there's still always a professor, you have a time to ask your professor whatever you need to fully understand it. As a person that has disabilities, specifically a learning disability, it is really beneficial for me. If I do end up being able to afford it, I will be getting a certification myself, even though I've already got a bachelor's. Another reason to do a certification is it will look good on your resume. Believe it or not, most places I've seen anyways, for example in animation, you don't always necessarily need an animation bachelor's or graduate degree unless it's like a senior level position, but they do want examples of your work, like a reel, for example. And you having the certification, you will definitely be doing like some kind of projects within that world, so you will be able to more easily show your skills. If you have that certification, you can just use the projects from that certification. Okay, now I think I'm gonna do my cheeks. I think I'll do like pink and red. I've been wanting to try this like blush. I tried it before, I didn't really like it, but let's see if I can get it to look the way I want to this time. And it's liquid, so I'm like always nervous. Another thing I would recommend If you don't want to do like a certification, I would say to find an apprenticeship in the career that you would like to do. For me, I am a hands-on learner, and something like that would really be beneficial for me, considering I want to do like animation and kind of like stage performance and all these things in between. There aren't really too many apprenticeships that I can find with that, but that don't mean that there aren't any out there. Just they may not be in this area, because as I said before, I am in the South, in Tennessee. Another reason that I don't even think I wrote on here, I would say another reason to do a apprenticeship is that you usually anyways, probably won't have like homework. It'll be probably project based or something of that sort. Now, I can't speak for every single career out there, but especially if I were to get a animation apprenticeship, the only homework I'd probably actually be doing is projects for whatever job I was trying to do at that company. Another reason is it could give your employer an example of the work you can already do, just to like show them that you're actually putting in effort to learn, even though you didn't go to college or whatever. This is crazy, but I kind of like it. I think I might try putting that blush on my nose. The last reason I would say to try and get an apprenticeship is some of them can lead to jobs with that same company that did the apprenticeship with you. Now, I can't, sit here and promise you that that's gonna happen, but I can say that it is something that has happened to other people. You just kind of got to put yourself out there, and apprenticeship is definitely a cool way to do that. Another thing I would say to do if you don't go to college, use social media to your advantage. For example, what I'm doing right now, I am talking to you on YouTube and trying to make a career doing stuff like this. I do have a problem with not being very consistent sometimes, but I'm trying to work on that. So that this can hopefully be my career in the future. That'd be really cool. I think I'm gonna do the pink again on my nose. One reason I say to use social media to your advantage is because plenty of people have made careers off of, even though it can be stressful, you could definitely still do it. If nothing you see looks good right now, then start out on social media and see where it takes you. Socials are also usually free, unlike, a certification would be or a college degree would be. They can be very expensive, and I don't think it's right to like expect a person to just completely pay for college right out of high school by themselves. So think about your options. If you have a job, then maybe it's doable. Another reason is it could be a chance to have like a sort of fan base. For example, if you want to be a singer, you could start singing on YouTube, start singing on TikTok, Instagram, whatever you have, and see what other people think. If you think you like it, and go from there. You don't necessarily have to go to school to do really anything, but it can be beneficial. Another reason to use social media is it could potentially lead to you getting a job offer, or maybe even better, you become basically your own boss technically, and make money that way. I've heard stories, probably from somebody else or probably just online, of people putting their art on Instagram, and then all of a sudden they get a job offer in their DMs. Most of us are already on social media, so why not use it to your advantage? If you decide to start putting your stuff on social media, just know that for the most part, in most cases, it is slow going. Like, you're not necessarily going to get famous immediately. Now, hear me out. Sometimes that does happen, and I've seen it happen, but what I've seen is the algorithm likes consistency. So if you consistently upload on whatever you do, you're gonna keep getting views. You're gonna keep getting to whatever the limitations are. Like, for example, I didn't know what was gonna happen whenever I started this channel. I just knew that I wanted to do drag, and this was one of the easiest ways I could do it. So I took a chance, and I don't really look at it very much, but looking at my, analytics. Basically, I started from like maybe one follower all the way to 18. Now that may not seem like a lot to other people because, you know, nowadays you have to have a lot of followers to get certain perks of including like making money. But if I keep doing this consistently, maybe at some point I'll be able to be in that range of followers to and you know, just have actual income. If you don't want to do any of that, if you don't want to do an apprenticeship, if you don't want to go to college, if you don't want to you know, do like some kind of job training or anything like that, if you want to just like, you know, just go ahead and go into the workforce, one thing I'm sure you've heard before, but I will say, at any interview, regardless of how big the interview is, how important the interview is, be yourself. Like, seriously. Let me explain. I'll explain that in a minute. I want to tell you about my eyes. I think I'm gonna do glitter eyebrows. I've decided, because I'm lazy and don't feel like doing anything else. But for my eyes, I think I'll do the reverse of the colors. So maybe I'll do blue on the pink side and pink on the blue side. Yeah, I'll do that. One thing I've learned at all the many of interviews I've had is to always like try to have some kind of questions to ask your interviewer. An interview is not just for the interviewee, it is for you as well, to see if you think you're a good fit. Now, obviously, I wouldn't say to go in there and clown shoes and a red nose unless that's like the job. But definitely still try to show your personality through the interview. I understand that we all need money, and sometimes the jobs we have to like apply to aren't necessarily in the field that we, you know, really want. But I do think it's good to make sure that the place you're going to be at is compatible, because you don't want to end up in a situation where there's a misunderstanding that you can't communicate. For example, I usually try to upload my videos every Sunday of every week. So I try to, if I do work on Sundays, not work past like 8 p.m. so that way I can make sure I fully edited my videos and they can be uploaded before like at least 12 a.m. that night. So I usually try to have at least 2 days off a week, so that way I have 1 day for filming and 1 day for editing. So in my interview, if they asked me like what days I would need off, I would start with asking them basically what days are like the most important. Around here, since I'm in a small town, there's mainly just retail. So I would hazard a guess, a lot of retails want you to have weekend availability. So what I would do is I would ask for like a weekday, like let's say Monday and Tuesday off, so that I could have time to do these videos, and then they still have people when they need it. You see what I'm saying? If I were to go in there and just like ask for the entire weekend off, I'm probably not going to get the job, because that may be one of their more important days. Another thing I would say is to make sure you tell them in the interview what days you need off, especially if you already know you're not gonna be working that day. Like, for example, Pride is coming up and I am going to an event for that, so I will need that day and the day after off, or at least to go in late the second day so that I'm not at work looking like a crazy person. But you know, just in general, make sure I would say to always tell them what days you need off, like at least 2 weeks in advance. Now, since I already know about Pride, and Pride's usually towards the end of the month here, I already know what days I need off. So I'm gonna tell them as soon as I, find a job or have an interview, that these are the days I need off, so that when that day comes, they know I'm not gonna be there. And I feel like it also gives you a chance to like show them that this job is important to you, because like, even though it may not be like the best job in the world, you still need to act like you want to be there at least. And I like customer service. For the most part, there are hard days, but I don't mind customer service at all. Just be a person, basically. The last thing I would say is to continue applying to jobs if needed, after you've already been hired. Now, I say that with an asterisk of, if you like your job and plan to stay, you don't necessarily need to do that. But I don't really plan to be a cashier for the rest of my life. So, that's not something I want to do. I don't want to be a manager or anything. So I would be still, fully applying to other places. Not necessarily because you're going to leave, but because you want to make sure that what's out there as well. It's better to know what's out there and not need it than need it someday. Because sometimes here in Tennessee, legally, a job can fire me for anything, regardless of like, they don't really need a reason to fire me. They can fire me because I am an at-will employee. I think that's what it's called. Let's say, the job is going really well wherever I work, and they just all of a sudden, I don't know, don't like what I've said one day and don't tell me and fire me. I need to make sure that I have something that I could possibly get lined up later on, so that I'm not just worrying about getting another job, if that makes sense. Because let's see, there was one job I had that was in retail, that I think after 3 months, no, actually I think it was longer than that. I think it was like maybe 5-6 months of working there. CEO, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. The CEO basically shut down all the warehouses, like all of them. So, I think I had to like file unemployment that time, and make sure I could find something else later on, and I'm pretty sure I eventually did. I would just say to think of an interview like an interview for you and that person that's interviewing you. It's just better to be on the same page than to have confusion later on. I'm gonna put on some eyeliner and put on the glitter for my eyebrows, and then I will do a conclusion. I was gonna move y'all, but I think this is pretty good lighting. Final thoughts on this makeup is okay. I definitely feel like I could have done a little bit more with my cheeks, but it is clowny to me, I think. So at least I did what I said I would. In conclusion, I'm just gonna say all of them, and then I'll further explain. 1, it is always up to you and only you if you want to go to college. 2, you do not need to know your major before deciding to go to college. There are plenty of pathways. And 3, you can go at any time. Don't rush. I am putting a lot of emphasis on always up to you, because a lot of parents and stuff say that you have to go to college, you must go to college. Now, if they're gonna pay for it and that's like something you want to do it. That's fine. But like, don't feel like you just have to go to college if that's not something you feel that will be beneficial to you. But definitely still do your research before deciding one way or the other, basically. Now, when I say you don't need to know your major, I'm saying that if you just like kind of have an idea of what major you want to do, but it's not specific to like the majors they have, do what I did. Do interdisciplinary studies. It's a pathway career, and basically you get to pick, I believe, two different minors from any other major. Like, I could have done art and science if I wanted to, You don't have to go to college already knowing that you want to be a doctor. You know what I mean? Like, there are ways to get into a field without fully just like pushing yourself into a field that you may not like. Now, when I say you can go at any time, in my opinion, I don't think there's any age limit when it comes to college. You can go at any point in your life. College is expensive. Like, I'm pretty sure I owe a lot. And because the only reason I don't have to pay it right now is because I don't make any money. So it can be a lot. It can be a burden, if you will. So just make sure you do your research before you do something like college, because college can be really difficult to not think about if you like decide to drop out, because you still have to pay that, especially if you have scholarships. I believe some scholarships make you pay that back like almost immediately after you drop out. So just do your research. That's all I would say. Let me know what y'all think about this video in the comments. I can definitely do more stuff like this. I have plenty of like weird stories of like retail and stuff like that I can talk about. Like, I can do stuff like this again. And just another reminder that I am raising money for top surgery. If you would like to help me, the link is still in the description, and I hope to see y'all in the next video. Bye.